law scholars. Some of them would term that decision as a giant jurisprudential step backward. Many criticized the judgment for its lack of depth, a weak philosophical base, and said that the judges then were a bit too lenient. Looking at some of the issues that NASA once determined in this petition, they want non-compliance, IBC officers rather, to be punished for non-compliance with the Constitution, for collaborating with the ruling government. In your thoughts, Mukwana, if you compare the 2013 petition to this petition, where does this leave the Supreme Court in terms of its credibility and redeeming itself?
In a historical, monumental position to make a landmark ruling that will go into the annals of history.
Right.
I say this because the court of the Supreme Court as currently constituted is not comparable to the then court as was constituted.
In 2013.
In 2013. Number two, looking at the 11 grounds that NASA has put forward, I would be very, very reluctant to say that come the decision time, we do not see the decision going the NASA way. As a lawyer, you know every decision of the court is predicated upon the production of evidence. What is before us now is the petition. And Michelle, for me as a lawyer, the crux of the decision will rest not so much on the polling station, but on the issue of verifiability, accountability, and transparency. One interesting claim that NASA has made here is that there were ungazetted polling stations. And if there is a proof that indeed there were ungazetted polling stations, then the question for determination by the Supreme Court is whether, first of all, the law was violated. Clearly, that would be a violation of the law,
right,
because the law requires that all polling stations, plus the returning officer and the polling and the POs, must be gazetted. So if this was not done, as NASA seems to claim, that would be a serious violation.
Right.
Whether that would be a substantive ground to declare President Uhuru's election null and void rests with the Supreme Court. But clearly, it will be, and I repeat, it will be a travesty of injustice, of justice, for anyone to say that the NASA petition as currently laid before the Supreme Court is going to be a walk in the park for the lawyers of Jubilee.
All right, and that's something I will be discussing in a moment. But Tommy, from a legal standpoint, I'm sure you've taken a look at the details of the 2013 petition. What did you make of that ruling that has been highly criticized by legal practitioners?
There were a few motions that were dismissed based on technicalities, about 3 of them. And that's very important because according to our Constitution, technicalities should not hinder you from attaining justice. So those are the 3, that would be the most glaring issue I would have with the 2013 ruling. But now the court is constituted with 3 new people, with a new Chief Justice. So with that mistake, with the benefit of hindsight, hopefully this will not happen now.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And also these issues being addressed as soon as this evidence is produced in court, will help us streamline and better this process so it seems more credible in future. Like Benji said, perception is everything. So at least through this process, we'll come out with a better way forward in the next election,
right,
regardless of the outcome.
Michelle, allow me just one small point. Again, what happened in 2013 is it badly hurt the credibility of the court. So that every legal analyst was shocked by the nonchalant, casual, flippant approach with which the court handled such a matter of gravity.
Right.
What that exposes then is that the expectations are very high, and while the expectations are high, the probability that supposedly independent arms of government or institutions are still under soft and quiet capture by the system. Why this is an important point, Michelle, is because NASA on its part, and I know you can argue that, what other option do they have? But then in so arguing, you'd be foregoing the fact that they have a huge following in this country. They have boxed themselves into a corner where their very casual approach as well in thinking, you know what, if we just away Issa Kassan, we will find justice. So now, for example, yesterday at Chris Msando's burial, Chebukati and Chilobo couldn't attend. You ask yourself why? They are only 6 months in office.
They cited security concerns.
Exactly. And so that tells you that removing the other commissioners has landed you in the same position, if not worse, than where you were before. And so you must, and this is also for the lawyers because they spend a lot of time also doing commentary and also giving advice. You must not use elastoplast solutions for cases that require deep surgery. It is a fallacy to vilify a judge, to vilify a court, when clearly the forces that are acting upon that court are greater than the court itself.
Right.
And those are some of the things that... Why this is an important point, Michelle, is I must close by saying this. One of the things that encourages me as a social activist is the fact that despite all these issues, Michelle, there is still a huge hunger in this country, if you look at even the last elections, for performance, for change, for institutions that can actually pick a rogue governor, prosecute him in court, and send him to committee. There is still that in our spirit, besides everything. And so that is an encouraging thing because it explains why the Constitution was voted for, even though it has come under attack and a lot of the people that are in power today are not willing to implement that Constitution. Be that as it may, Kenyans still want a strong court, a powerful presidency, not an imperialist presidency, but a powerful presidency, and a hard-working, people-serving legislature.
Right, absolutely, as well as strong institutions from the Constitution. But we will continue this conversation in just a moment, gentlemen. We must take a short break. We've been speaking to political analyst Benji Ndolo, as well as lawyers Alutalala Mukwana and Tommy Randall, looking at what's making headlines on the dailies this morning. Kivumbi 2017 takes a short commercial break. Do stay with us.
This is KTN News.